Hello, my name is Jason Johnson, amateur radio operator Kilo 3, Juliet Sierra Juliet. Today what I would like to do is cover a topic on off-grid communications, specifically communications using the WinLink program. In our connected world, we make conversations with a lot of people. We do this over cell phones, with phone calls, text messages, and social media apps. We also frequently use email messages to communicate with our friends and family, coworkers, and also other businesses to do business online. Well, have you stopped for a moment and considered what happens if networks go down? The reality is, it's not even a question of if, it's a question of when these networks will go down and how we will respond and still be able to communicate with other people. And these outages can be cell phone outages that may happen, and these also may be internet outages. And the outages may be temporary. In certain cases, it lasts for a short amount of time. But in other cases, maybe in cases of extreme weather or disaster, or maybe even just an accident where someone's hit a telephone pole or somebody's actually dug up a wire or fiber optic cable, the outages can be even more disruptive and last for several days. Let's quickly take a look at some of the outages that have occurred here recently in 2024. Earlier this year in February, AT&T had an outage on its network caused by an upgrade that was occurring. The outage began at between 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning and lasted until about 11 p.m. that morning as well. By 11 p.m., the good news is about 75% of the network was restored. However, consider if you were an AT&T customer that morning and you were on your way to school or work and needed to reach someone or reach a coworker, but when you tried to make a phone call or use the internet, nothing worked on your cell phone. That is a disruptive situation for many. Earlier this month, in June, AT&T had another outage that occurred. That particular outage was a lot more widespread from 1 p.m. until 8 p.m. It was very disruptive to a number of subscribers on the network. And also, it also impacted subscribers on other networks making calls through their service. There was an investigation into it, and it was determined there was no cyber event on the network, which is good news. But still, for the users on this network, still very disruptive indeed. Also, recently, there was a very disruptive outage in Massachusetts where the 911 service, the entire state, was out for a 2-hour time period. This is a very critical service providing important communications in cases of medical emergencies, fire, as well as police dispatch. An investigation afterwards determined that the outage was caused by a firewall, which is a device that's typically used to block connections between networks to prevent cyber intrusions. It was determined there was no cyber intrusion in this particular case. However, it does demonstrate that we do rely quite heavily on communications networks in our everyday lives, and especially for public safety. And when these networks are not available, it can be quite disruptive. So now that we've seen that it's not a question of if networks will go down, but when, we need to ask ourselves some questions. Wouldn't it be great to be able to send an email in an event that the internet is down at our home? We've had this happen in our neighborhood a couple times when a fiber optic cable was cut. There was also a localized outage due to a weather event. When the internet goes down, the fixed line internet, maybe we can turn to our cell phone to make a phone call or to send an email. But there have also been cases where cell phone networks have been down, which we've talked about. Consider as well, maybe you're somewhere out on a vacation or out visiting someone, and the cell service at that location is not very good. Wouldn't it be great to be able to send a message, an email message, despite the cell service not being there? Well, what happens if maybe you're somewhere and you're delayed and you need to text your spouse or a family member to let them know that you won't be leaving for a while or you run into some trouble, but there's no cell service. Well, did you know with the WinLink service, you can actually send a text message using an email. straight to their phone. And finally, maybe you're out with some friends activating a park or doing an event, maybe field day, winter field day, or summer field day, and you like to get weather forecast with radar images. Maybe there's some reference information that you typically bring with you for radio activation, but you left it at home and you don't have your cell phone handy and you want to get maybe some APRS code to send some messages or look up some repeater frequencies or NOAA weather radio frequencies. You also can be able to request this information over the WinLink network and straight from an email. You can do all these things and more with just with using the WinLink service. And all you need to be able to get WinLink is a valid amateur radio license. I will note that technician class licenses and above are able to use this service. So even if you don't have HF privileges with the general and extra class and you just hold a technician, you can send email messages and do all the things I talked about in the previous slide using your technician class license. So for the moment, let me talk briefly about my home radio setup. I have a station that costs me around $250 that allows me to get on the WinLink network. And I purchased a base station radio, a very modest Anytone radio, for $130 off of Amazon. At the same time, I purchased an antenna, which you'll see. It's $35, which is a 2 meter, 70 centimeter base station antenna. To connect the radio to my computer, I purchased a device called a DigiRig. And a DigiRig is essentially a sound card that connects the audio from the radio to the computer, but it also has a couple special control lines that when the computer is attempting to send audio to the radio to broadcast on the air, it will key the push-to-talk key on my radio. And to make that happen, I had to connect up a special cable. Most radios have a special adapter cable that you can purchase from DigiRig, and it's just a plug and play. In my particular case, they did not have a radio cable at that time, so I had to get the circuit diagram for the connector on the front of the radio, which is right below the power button, and get the pinouts, and I had to make my own homebrew cable. It wasn't that difficult to do. It cost me about a couple bucks in parts and about an hour or two of my own time. And then finally, I had to pay for a WinLink license. When I purchased this back in 2020, it was for $24. So all total, to get up and running on WinLink, it just cost me around $254, which is a great investment considering the times we found ourselves without service here. Being able to have this capability is a much needed investment and well worth the money spent. So thank you for watching this first video. This completes the overview of the WinLink system. This completes the overview of WinLink and why you would want to use it. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about what the network looks like for WinLink, and I'm going to go through some examples of how you would send messages. This is K3JSJ saying 73 for now.